Hello and welcome back to another week, another redraw. I bring you one character today because I've been itching to make digital art, but turns out drawing 1100 mushrooms is a little hard on the drawing hand for one reason or another. This is my Redrawing Childhood Characters series, but this is also a sub-series where I randomly pick your aesthetic or theme suggestions and add it to one of my childhood characters. So for the randomly picked aesthetic, we have Coquette. And for our character, we have Kate, a coquette, if you will. That almost sounded not good. Anyways, I really wanted to draw Coquette this week, which is great, but I will not lie, Kate specifically, I almost left out of the prompt list because look at her with the side-swept bang and the knee-high Converse. She was born to be in the scene style. But you know what? When I was 13, I thought I was born to be in the scene aesthetic as well, and now I just dressed like a sack of potatoes that's been pickling in a bog, or like I'm going to the Ren Fair and not really much of an in-between. So styles change, people grow, and scene is still a prompt on the prompt list that I can inflict onto one of my beautiful other unsuspecting characters. In order to keep Kate as relatively still Kate as possible with such a drastic style change, keeping her hair this burnt orange color and giving her a layered haircut with bangs seemed like the best way to do that. But instead of the deep side part and the side swept bangs, I went for a more romantic fluffy route. Coquette is a very soft look defined by pearls, bows, soft colors, usually pinks and creams, and a variety of textures. If you've spent some time on Instagram or Pinterest, it's pretty hard to not at least have interacted a little bit with the Coquette aesthetic, as it has been a super popular style, and I personally think that it being a very present style in the colder season led to a lot of really gorgeous layering of textiles of various weights. When I was looking around for inspiration for the clothing, there were the expected ruffles, lace, and ribbon, but I also found a lot of knitted and fluffy features. There was quite a few cropped cardigans with feather trims, lots of chunky knit leg warmers, earmuffs, and I think it was all super cute. And almost always there was some sort of statement sock or stocking with some kind of cute lacy texture or fun ribbons, and I love a good statement stocking. I just think they're kind of cute to look at. About the Coquette aesthetic, which I hope I'm saying correctly, the ability to just put bows everywhere is astonishing to me. Honestly, I don't think I put enough bows on this drawing, and I have 11 bows total. I saw a girl online who was like, earring holes are whatever you want them to be, and then she proceeded to tie little ribbons into little bows in her ears, which was very cute, but I feel like might be a little itchy. Not that I have anything to say on this matter at all, because I don't have pierced ears, so I don't know if like when you put earrings or something in your ears you feel it at first and then you kind of become blind to the feeling, or if you kind of just bear with it for the vibes. And as a cosplayer, I definitely understand both of those sentiments. But anyways, the dedication to bows is fascinating. The other thing I noticed for Coquette specifically is that very few people seem to have long nails, and pretty much nobody wears rings. I did see bracelets a couple of times, but I pretty much never saw anybody with a ring on, which the ring thing is very surprising to me. I feel like rings and ring layering has been very popular in a lot of styles in the more recent years, and for a style that doesn't seem to generally shy away from accessorizing, you know, with the leg warmers and earmuffs and layered necklaces, I just found the lack of rings kind of unique. I don't know if it was just the outfits I happened to run across, or maybe it's a universal thing. I really don't know, but I just thought it was an interesting detail. Coquette does seem to have quite a bit of overlap with ballerina inspired looks, which makes sense because they don't call those shades of pink ballet slipper for nothing. However, because of certain stereotypes when it comes to these kinds of aesthetics, it did result in me being pleasantly surprised at just how inclusive many of the reference pictures were, at least on Pinterest. Obviously, because we live in this society, inclusivity is still very much a work of progress. We're very far from being perfect, but you know, I was a teenager with access to the internet at around 2014-ish, and I can confidently say that things have actually come quite a ways. In 2014, 2013, I was very in love with pastel goth as a style. However, no matter how long I scrolled or how specific I would search, there was pretty much no variety in body type, let alone skin tone, when it came to reference images. So just 10 years later down the line, being able to look up Coquette and having some of the the top recommended pictures being women of color and people with different body types is very impressive to me. Obviously, the bar is low, but a major mindset shift of hundreds of millions of people to make these the top recommended results is not an insignificant thing. So, you know, good job, Coquette. Good for you. I haven't talked about the specifics of my art process in a while for fear of becoming repetitive, but a couple of you did express interest in hearing about the various techniques and processes I use, and I do just want to say I am very painfully self-taught, so a lot of the things that I do are entirely based off of vibes with no good technique or foundational reason at all. One of my biggest art hacks, I guess, is that I do a lot of color correction in my art. I adjust the saturation, contrast, hue. Personally, I don't think this is cheating or even really a hack. It's just genuinely one of my favorite tools of digital art. If I don't like a color, I always can tell myself I can adjust it later. And sometimes it's easier to see how colors go together if you try them out first, or sometimes you'll need to change the temperature of a drawing to bring out a certain feeling, and you will see that temperature change in this drawing. It's a much slower and maybe less drastic color change, but the final drawing is actually quite a bit warmer than the first flat colors that I lay down, and I think that helps bring out the cozy aspect of Coquette, and it also helps bring warmth to Kate's overall character design and personality. A more specific technique I'm trying to work on is going from darkest to lightest color. For bigger, flatter areas like the skirt, picking a medium tone and then blocking in shadows, drawing in highlights like I used to do when I did a more cell shading art style makes a lot of sense, but going from the darkest shade to the lightest shade in places like the eyes, or for smaller ribbons and pearls, or really any cylindrical or spherical shapes, makes it a lot easier to get the thin ring of shading around the individual shapes without making it look flat or drawn in. And I think as far as changes that you can see in my art progression over the years, this detail shows very obviously. You can look at the art on my Instagram page or on the YouTube channel over the years. I would ask you to take particular notice of the eyes. I've always struggled with eyes, less in a color theory and how to draw them way, but more in wondering why, no matter what I did, the eyes always felt like they were just pasted on top of my drawing. Starting from the shadows and working your way into building up the bright whites of the eyes actually makes all the difference. I didn't change anything about the way I shade, I didn't really change anything about how I draw irises or how I draw catchlights. I just started drawing with the base of the shadow color of murky abyss in the eye sockets and worked my way up through lighter colors with that, and yeah, I always thought that it was a specific art style or art preference thing to start from a dark base, but apparently there is some science behind it. Someone in the comment section knows, maybe, I don't know. Another newer thing that I've been asked about a couple times to expand on is using a multiply layer duplicate of my character drawing to push the contrast. I wish I could talk about it while it's happening on screen, but unfortunately, in terms of speed draw, it looks like a very quick process, so I am afraid that I won't have enough time to really explain the step by step. But basically, since I draw on one layer, I'll just duplicate the entire layer that my character is on. If you're an artist who does multiple layers, I would put all the character layers in a folder, duplicate that folder, and then in that second folder, merge down all your layers to create one solid version of your character design, and then set that solid version to be a multiply layer. What multiply does is blend the colors in your overlapping layers to create a darker color. Multiply is a great filter tool for creating shadows in general, even if you're just using flat colors. In duplicating your existing drawing as a multiply layer, you are pushing the shadows that you already have so that you have a higher contrast. And I like to take a soft chunky brush and kind of chisel away the areas that light would be hitting, and ta-da, you have a warm shadow present in your drawing. Again, you can use hue and saturation levels and make the shadow a cooler layer or a warmer layer. You can also use a Gaussian blur to make the shadow softer. I wouldn't say that this trick is really a perfect fix when it comes to making shadows and pushing values, but it is a really easy, convenient way to up the contrast in your drawing in certain areas without a ton of color theory knowledge. That being said, I've only ever tried it on my more painterly drawings. I have no idea how it would look on a more cel-shaded generated style. In theory, I feel like it should work, but again, I've never tried it and it might take some trial and error. I would like to say it's much more my version of being an artist who finishes their drawings by adding noise or paper texture or chromatic aberration. It's not a solid way to make shadows, but it does somehow make my drawing look just a little bit more finished. Enough of my poor excuses for art techniques. I would like to talk about how I had a lot of fun doing this. So much fun, in fact, that I kind of want to extend this sub-series beyond just the teenagers of my childhood redraws series. So the reason I picked teenagers for this random wheel game in the first place is because they are just that, teenagers that live in a town called Riverside. Literally, the city was on the side of a river. It's not a Riverdale knockoff. Riverdale came out in 2017, which was quite a while after these characters were created, and while yes, the comics are older, in my defense, I didn't know they existed, and you will just have to take my word for that. Anyways, there is a large group of these redraw characters that are celestial characters. I would like to do knights and royalty based off of the planetary bodies, but unfortunately, I was not a normal child. You know, I could have just picked well-documented and well-studied celestial bodies like, I don't know, the sun. But no, I had to name my characters specifically after asteroids and specific stars that have like 3-paragraph long Wikipedia pages and only ever 3D approximated models of what they look like. So I thought about maybe extending this random generated aesthetic thing to the celestial characters. That way I can take more suggestions. Maybe we can have 2 wheels, one for aesthetics or color palettes and one for specific traits like multiple eyes or gold chains. So it would kind of look like all the celestial characters are knights and royalty, but we would end up with a prompt that is Decora Cyclops Knight, which I for one think that is sick. But let me know what you guys think, if I'm overthinking and overcomplicating things. I just think it's fun to have you guys involved in the design decisions, and I have a lot of characters to get through in order to be making all of these design decisions on my own. But we are coming to the end of the drawing here, and I pull a very classic move, which is putting a solid shape on a solid background and also outlining the character to make her look like a sticker. But with that, we have our lovely Coquette Kate. I had a lot of fun with this drawing. I know it's a shorter, simpler video, but in my defense, there has been a lot going on in my outside of YouTube life, so I appreciate you all bearing with me as I'm trying to manage all of the everything and take care of my physical well-being at the same time. That being said, I'm super happy to have gotten the chance to dedicate more creative energy into one really nicely rendered drawing. I'm super proud of how this piece came out. I love the character design and the suggestion. I feel like Kate has ended up really suiting this style well, and I'm also excited to draw more characters. I know the suggestion wheel is already pretty big, but like I said, if I get more suggestions, I can maybe start adding in the celestial characters. I'd love to have not just style suggestions, but some unique character features or color palettes to work with. So if you feel like your comment might be too vague, do not even feel the slightest bit bad about it. It can be anything like, oh, I want a character to have glasses, or I want them to have a cherry blossom theme, or the color orange. Or it can be something as much as like, make the character have hooved feet, give them wings, make them a pirate captain. I'd love for everyone to have a chance at putting a suggestion in. You know what? If I don't end up rolling a Decora Cyclops Knight, I might just do it anyways, but who knows? Not me.